A mysterious mechanic repairs Jungkook's car. But when Jungkook returns, what he discovers turns his reality inside out. What truth was buried under the hood? I didn't touch the brakes, the old man said, his voice low and grave, but someone did. The garage smelled of oil, old leather, and something else, something like burnt sugar and copper. Jungkook stood frozen, fingers tightening around the car, keys still warm from ignition. The Mustang GT was parked behind him, engine ticking softly as it cooled, its chrome face gleaming under the flickering fluorescent lights. Rain lashed the garage doors behind him, but inside was a stillness that gripped his spine. Old man Haru was hunched over his tool bench, his calloused hands blackened with grease. A faded tattoo curled along his forearm, an anchor entwined with thorns. The mechanic had a way of speaking without raising his voice, yet each word struck like hammer on metal. Jungkook swallowed, trying to keep his voice steady. You said it was just the radiator. Why? Why would someone touch the brakes? The old man didn't answer at first. Instead, he wiped his hands on a rag that had long given up trying to be clean. His eyes were distant but sharp, like he was looking at something through Jungkook, not at him. I don't know what you're mixed up in, boy, Haru said at last. But your car came in clean. Well, I gave it back. Someone had been in it. And not someone like me. It had been a week since Jungkook brought the car in. Just a minor leak, nothing serious. The man was recommended by a friend in the industry. A small garage up in Jeonju, nearly forgotten by the city, run by a war vet who rarely spoke and never smiled. Jungkook didn't question it. He had needed discretion. But now, standing in the humming silence of Haru's garage, Jungkook felt a tremor rise in his chest. He turned, walking slowly back to the car, fingers grazing its side. The Mustang was his sanctuary. He had rebuilt half of it himself. Every bolt, every switch, he would have noticed tampering, unless it had been done by someone who wanted him not to. The sound of a tool dropping broke the silence. Do you know what I found behind the glove box? Haru's voice cut through the rain. A micro recorder, industrial grade, wired into your electrical system. Whoever did this wasn't just listening. They were watching your routes, your stops, your calls. Jungkook's breath caught. The past week flashed in fragments. His late night drives through Namsan, the meeting with Yoongi in the Forest parking lot, the slip of paper handed to him by the man in the trench coat near Han River, with only 3 numbers, 726. He pressed his hand to the hood, as if expecting the car to pulse back a warning. I didn't put it there, Jungkook said. I swear, no one touches my car. No one. I believe you, said Haru. But someone did. And I think they want you to find out. Slowly. Or maybe too late. A loud crack split the air, thunder but too sharp, too close. The overhead light blinked once. Twice. Then darkness fell. And then, the garage phone rang. The sound echoed like a scream. Haru didn't move. Jungkook looked at him, and for a second, saw fear in the old man's eyes. Not the kind of fear that trembles, but the kind that knows exactly what's coming. Don't answer it, Haru whispered. But Jungkook already had. Hello. Static. Then a voice. Garbled, broken, like it was crawling through the wires. You're not supposed to remember. The line went dead. In that moment, Jungkook realized something he hadn't let himself think before. Someone was trying to erase him. Not kill. Not harm. Erase. He turned to Haru. Who are you? The mechanic's face was pale beneath the grease. I fixed engines for warships, and I built things meant never to be found. But one of them got out, and now it's riding in your car. Rain pounded harder, as if trying to bury the garage beneath its fury. The Mustang's headlights blinked, without anyone touching them. And then the engine roared to life. All by itself. The car wanted to go. But to where? And for what? Jungkook took one step back, but something inside him knew. Whatever had begun was already inside the engine, the wires, maybe even inside him. And it would not stop until he remembered. You need to kill the engine now. Haru barked, louder than Jungkook had ever heard him. But Jungkook didn't move. The Mustang stood in front of them, idling on its own, headlights glowing like 2 hollow eyes. The garage was filled with a low, guttural rumble, steady, unnatural. like the growl of something old and sentient trying to remember its voice. Jungkook took a cautious step forward, one hand extended. It's just a short. Maybe the battery relay misfired, or... No, Haru cut in, grabbing Jungkook's arm with more strength than his frail body should have allowed. That car is not yours anymore. A pulse of heat radiated from the hood. Jungkook flinched. The headlights blinked again. Once. Twice. And the car's stereo came to life. A voice crackled through the speakers, warped and metallic, like a recording playing in reverse. Then a single phrase, clear, unmistakable. Open the trunk. Haru's grip tightened. Don't you dare, he whispered. But something deeper had already moved in Jungkook. Curiosity was too small a word. It was as if a thread had been pulled inside his chest, and at the end of it was a door he didn't know existed until now. He shook off Haru's hand and walked toward the trunk. Every step felt heavier. The smell of gasoline thickened, sweet and sharp, and behind it, something else. Like singed hair. Burnt meat. His fingers reached under the latch. Click! The trunk lifted slowly, creaking as if resisting him. Haru stood frozen, watching. A bead of sweat slid down the old man's face, cutting a line through soot and oil. The trunk opened fully, and Jungkook recoiled. There was a man inside, bound, gagged, barely breathing. His face was covered in bruises, blood crusted over a swollen temple. He looked up with wild, desperate eyes, then began thrashing, screaming through the gag. What the F? Jungkook stumbled back, horror crashing into his gut. Haru was already moving, grabbing a wrench from the bench. Get back! Get away from the car! I don't know him! Jungkook yelled. I swear to God. I've never seen him before. But the man in the trunk knew him. The look in his eyes wasn't just terror. It was betrayal. He knew Jungkook. Somehow. Help me get him out. Jungkook shouted. But Haru didn't move. His expression darkened. Think, boy, he hissed. Think. When was the last time you opened that trunk? Jungkook stared at him, confusion swirling into dread. I don't know. A week ago? Before I brought it here. No. After, Haru said grimly. You picked up the car 7 days ago. You drove out of here. Alone. No one else. So how the hell did he get in there? The man thrashed harder. Tears streamed down his dirt-smeared cheeks. Jungkook's breath shortened. You think I put him in there? I think, Haru said, stepping closer. You don't know what you've been doing. And that's worse. The man inside the trunk began convulsing. Help him! Jungkook cried, pushing past Haru. They pulled him out together, laying him on the garage floor. Jungkook yanked the gag from his mouth. The man coughed, gasped for air, and then, hoarse and broken, he whispered, You said you'd let me go. Jungkook froze. No, he said. No, I didn't. You looked me in the eyes. The man wheezed, blood on his lips. You said it wouldn't hurt. Jungkook's knees buckled. I don't know what he's talking about. I swear. Haru stared down at him, eyes cold and old as rusted steel. What do you remember from Tuesday night? Jungkook didn't answer. His mind was a blur, a tangle of images and silence. Tuesday night, he had gone for a drive. He remembered music, a turn off the highway, a gas station receipt in his jacket he didn't remember buying, a cracked rearview mirror he hadn't noticed until Friday, and a smell. That same burnt sweet scent now flooding the garage. The man on the floor tried to speak again, but his body gave in. He passed out, shallow breath rattling. Jungkook stood, trembling. We need to call someone. The cops, a hospital. We call no one, Haru snapped. We do that, you're done. He's done. And maybe I am too. This is kidnapping, Jungkook said, voice rising. Someone messed with my memory, and he thinks I did it. You think the police will believe that? Haru spat. You think they won't find your fingerprints all over the inside of that trunk? You think they'll believe you forgot kidnapping a man? I didn't kidnap anyone. Jungkook shouted. Haru leaned in, eyes boring into his soul. Then prove it. Find out who did, before whoever's behind this makes you do something worse. A silence hung between them, heavy, drenched in oil and fear. Then Haru said, almost to himself, he's not the first. Jungkook blinked. What? There've been others, Haru whispered. Drivers like you. Cars like that. People with missing hours, missing days. And someone always ends up in the trunk. Lightning cracked outside. The garage lights flickered again. We need to move, Haru said. Now, before they come back to finish what they started. Jungkook looked at the man on the floor, then at the Mustang. Its engine had gone quiet, but still sat there, watching. What do I do? Jungkook asked, voice barely above a whisper. Haru looked at him like a man who's seen too much to lie. You drive, he said. You follow the trail. You find the pieces they left in your mind. And you pray that by the time you remember, it's not already too late. Outside, the rain turned to hail. And under it, something darker moved, a shadow on the edge of the parking lot. Watching, Jungkook didn't see it, but the Mustang's headlights blinked once more. And inside the glove box, unseen by either man, the recorder light turned red. It had begun recording again. You're not driving that thing, Haru growled, slamming the garage door shut behind him. Not while it's breathing. Jungkook's hand hovered over the key, unsure if it was trembling from cold or something deeper, more primal. The Mustang sat idle now, as if it hadn't just tried to command him, hadn't just revealed a bleeding man from its belly. The headlights had gone dark, the purr of the engine replaced by an oppressive silence that seemed to breathe through the walls of the garage. He's waking up, Haru added, nodding toward the man lying on the concrete floor, tied now with bungee cords and wrapped in an old wool blanket. Jungkook had wrapped him himself, hands still sticky with dried blood. I didn't hurt him, Jungkook muttered. You don't know what you did, Haru said, lighting a cigarette with a hand that didn't shake. That's worse. The man groaned and shifted. His lips were cracked, skin pale. His name was still unknown to them, but Jungkook had seen his eyes before. Not just today. Somewhere buried in the fog behind the past 7 days, those eyes were waiting, burning with betrayal. Jungkook knelt beside him. Hey, he said softly. Can you hear me? The man blinked once, then again. His eyes flicked around the garage in frantic recognition. It's okay, Jungkook said, even though it wasn't. You're safe. I'm not going to hurt you. You already did, the man rasped. No, listen. Jungkook touched his own chest. I don't remember anything. I swear. If I hurt you, it wasn't me. Something's wrong. I think someone drugged me. Or did something to my head. The man's breathing was fast. Shallow. You told me to get in, he whispered. You said it'd only be a conversation. And then, he looked down at his wrist. Raw rope burns. You locked the trunk yourself. Jungkook reeled. What conversation? Who are you? The man coughed and winced. My name is Park Min-jae. You said you had questions about the Seoul Institute fire. The one from 3 years ago. Jungkook froze. I was the chief technician. You said you found files, classified files. You said people were watching you. You needed to talk off record. Jungkook's hands went numb. He remembered the file. A black USB in a silver envelope. Given to him by a man in a cafe. Short, balding, paranoid. The file had no name. Just numbers. Timestamps. Footage from a secure lab. A woman screaming in silence behind glass. Jungkook had watched it once. Maybe twice. Then nothing. He looked up at Haru. I think he's telling the truth. Min-jae coughed again, this time more blood. There's a room, he wheezed. Level B2. They said it was just climate control. But it wasn't. They were testing on people. Ooh, Jungkook asked, leaning in. But Min-jae had already passed out again. Haru exhaled smoke through his nostrils, eyes narrow. You said Seoul Institute? He asked. Jungkook nodded. I used to build parts for their backup power systems, Haru muttered. They pay me triple the market rate. Never let me into the main building. Do you think it's connected? I think, Haru said, flicking ash onto the floor, your car didn't come back haunted. It came back programmed. They stared at the Mustang. A low click came from inside it. The glove box had opened. Jungkook walked slowly toward it. Inside, the micro recorder was blinking red again. And beneath it, something he hadn't seen before. A second key. But not a car key. A hospital key card. Seoul Institute. Level B2. With his name on it. Jungkook backed away. Haru stepped in front of him, watching the car like it might leap. You need to go there, Haru said. Alone? Jungkook asked. Haru smirked darkly. You already are. They waited until nightfall. Haru wrapped Min Jae tighter, propped him up in a cot with a saline 4 drip jerry-rigged from garage supplies. Jungkook changed into dark clothes, shaved off the stubble he'd grown without noticing, and packed a flashlight and bolt cutter into a bag. Then he opened the driver door. Nothing happened. No sound. No voice. The Mustang was cold again. Obedient. But it felt like driving a loaded gun. The ride to the Seoul Institute was quiet, but his mind was a hurricane. Images came in flashes. A woman's hand reaching through smoke. A key sliding into a lock. A scream he couldn't hear. The smell of wires burning. He pulled into the abandoned lot behind the institute. The building towered like a broken tooth. Lights off. Windows black. The key card beeped green. B2. A long hallway greeted him. Cold, sterile, humming under his feet. He walked slowly, heart in his throat. And then the smell hit him. Gasoline. Not fresh. Old. Ancient. There were footprints on the tile. Black. Tarlika. He followed them, all the way to a steel door. His key card buzzed. The door opened. And there, beneath white surgical lights, stood himself. Or something that looked like him. Wearing the same jacket. The same scars. But the eyes were hollow. Like wax melted in the sun. The duplicate turned slowly. You finally came back, it said. Jungkook stepped back. What the fuck are you? I'm what you left behind, it answered. I'm what you buried. What you became before you tried to erase it. It reached into its jacket and pulled out a photograph. A woman, screaming behind glass. Her face. His mother. Jungkook fell to his knees. You said she died in a fire, the copy whispered. But she didn't. You put her there. Jungkook screamed. Everything shattered inside. Walls cracked. Lights burst. And behind the clone, shadows moved. The people he had locked away. The truths he had severed. The ghosts he had made. And the car, far above, started its engine on its own. Again, ready to take him back. Or take him somewhere worse. Jungkook whispered, what did I do? And the copy knelt before him. You loved her. Then it held out a scalpel. Now finish what you started. Take it, the copy whispered, holding the scalpel with an impossible calm, as if it weren't offering a tool to commit something irreversible, but simply returning something long overdue. Jungkook didn't reach for it. He couldn't. His knees scraped against the cold tile floor of level B2. His breath came in ragged gulps, his heart banging against his ribs like it wanted out. The fluorescent lights above buzzed with sick white energy, flickering occasionally as if the building itself were nervous. The photograph lay at his feet. His mother, her face distorted in agony, mid-scream, palms flattened against glass. Her expression wasn't only fear. It was recognition. You think you know pain? The copy said, its voice no longer echoing Jungkook's exactly. It was more measured now, darker, like the memory of a voice warped by guilt. You think forgetting what you did makes you innocent? You begged them to let her go. Then you held the door, closed yourself. Stop, Jungkook choked. I never. You don't remember. The copy snapped, stepping forward. But the car does. The Mustang, it's not just steel and wires anymore. They used it. They fed it. Jungkook blinked through tears. What do you mean fed it? Emotion, trauma, neural echoes, everything you try to bury. They used your guilt to map a sentient logic core. You weren't just a test subject, Jungkook. You were the algorithm. A deep ringing pulsed through the floor, a vibration like the hum of a massive engine spinning awake beneath them. They called it the echo code. The copy continued. They said human memory could be fractured, rewired, repurposed. But yours? Yours fractured perfectly. You became the template. The scalpel gleamed in its hand. Why are you showing me this? Jungkook asked, rising slowly, legs shaking. Why now? Because it's waking up, the copy said. The thing they built inside the car. And it needs more than just memory now. It needs choice. It needs an anchor. You. Jungkook backed away, eyes scanning the room. Several doors, all sealed. Monitors flickering with static. Some playing footage on loop. A child in a hospital bed. A woman screaming at a locked door. Him, sitting in a therapy chair, hooked to wires, weeping uncontrollably as his own voice played over a speaker, saying, I know it wasn't me, but I saw my hands do it. Was this real? Jungkook whispered. All of this. The copy said nothing. Then finally, does it matter? The scalpel was still in its hand. Suddenly a klaxon blared through the facility. One long, high-pitched alarm that felt like it split his skull open. Red emergency. Level B2 breach. Extraction unit en route. Remain stationary. Jungkook spun toward the door, heart leaping. They're coming, the copy said. You think you have time to decide. But that was gone the second you turned the key. Another door hissed open behind them. Footsteps. Heavy. Boots. Jungkook grabbed the scalpel. The copy smiled. Good. Remember what pain feels like. Jungkook turned and ran. The hallway was dark now, lit only by emergency red strips along the walls. Shadows moved fast, tactical units, 5 at least. Voices barked orders in clipped military Korean. Target is Jungkook. Alive. He sprinted around a corner and slammed into a reinforced glass panel. Behind it, more of the past, trapped on display. Footage of him again. This time walking with 2 others, a woman in a lab coat and a younger man, Park Min-jae. Jungkook smashed the glass with his elbow, ripping a file folder from behind the casing. Pages spilled out as he ran. He ducked into a side corridor. Lights buzzed, then died. And then, silence. Too much silence. Do you remember me? A voice whispered. Jungkook froze. It wasn't one of the soldiers. It wasn't his copy. It was hers. His mother. But not the scream. Not the photo. The real voice. Soft. Gentle. Singing. Iagiomayan Ibaram Kirium Inal Buryunern Gialka. He turned. There was no one there. Just shadows. And the Mustang's key glowing faintly in his pocket. A hand grabbed his shoulder. He spun with the scalpel. Jungkook. It's me. Hazu. He looked older than ever. Eyes bloodshot. Shirt soaked through. He had cuts on his arms, dirt on his face. How the hell had he found him? I followed the signal, Haru said, panting. Your car. It left a trail? Not just tire tracks. Echoes. What the hell is happening? Jungkook gasped. Haru looked around. This whole place is about to bury itself. We need to move. Now. They've been using my mind, Jungkook said. They made a machine out of me. Haru grunted. You're not the only one. I've been tracking others. One of them was my daughter. Jungkook stared. She disappeared 3 years ago. Said she was working on something to save people. But she never came back. When your car came in, something about it screamed her. The circuits, the architecture, she designed the neural interface. She was part of this. Another voice echoed through the hallway. The copy. No more running. Jungkook turned. It stood at the far end of the corridor, now wearing a security uniform. Give him to me, it said to Haru. He's not finished. You're not real, Jungkook said. You're just. I'm the part of you that remembers what you're capable of, it said. And I'm not going away until you stop pretending. Jungkook raised the scalpel. Then let's finish this. The next 10 minutes blurred into chaos. Fist fights. Blood. Haru swinging a wrench into a soldier's helmet. Jungkook dodging stun batons, slicing through security webbing with the scalpel. Sirens. Screams. Until finally, Haru kicked open a service hatch. They tumbled through the shaft and fell hard into a sub-basement filled with junked prototypes. Steel limbs. Biodare. And there, half covered by a tarp, was a vehicle. Another Mustang. But not his. Older. Rusted. Scorched inside. And something was inside the driver's seat. Charred. Fused to the steering wheel. A woman's body. A melted nameplate glinted beside the dash. Haru Experimental Series. Kira. Jungkook looked at Haru. Haru closed his eyes. My daughter, he said. And then a groan echoed through the walls. The real Mustang. His Mustang was overhead. Alive. And it wanted him back. The lights blinked. Haru looked at Jungkook, tears in his eyes. You either own the memory, he said, voice breaking, or it owns you. And as the ceiling cracked above them, and the Mustang's engine roared through metal and flame, Jungkook stood. He had to go back. To the car. To the code. To the pain. Not to escape it, but to remember. The Mustang tore through the concrete above, its engine scream shaking dust from the ceiling as Jungkook stared up into the crack of widening light. The roar wasn't just mechanical anymore. It had voice, purpose, an animal sound made of steel and memory. Jungkook barely heard Haru behind him shouting over the noise. His ears rang with something else, a girl's laugh in a sunlit room, a glass shattering on tile, a door locking, always locking. "She's in the car," Haru said, grabbing Jungkook by the collar. "Whatever's left of my daughter, Kira's memory, her map, her soul, it's riding inside that thing, and it's pulling you in." Jungkook didn't answer. The scalpel in his hand trembled like a needle in a magnetic storm. "They used me," he finally whispered. "They cut my life into pieces and wired it into a machine. And now it's eating me from the inside out." Haru's voice lowered. "Then take it back." The crack above split wider. Concrete collapsed like snow in an avalanche, and the Mustang dropped through the ceiling like a beast from the sky, landing hard in a storm of debris and light. It hissed. Not smoke, steam. Blood-hot and sharp with copper. The driver's side door opened slowly. Empty, but it wasn't offering a ride. It was inviting him home. "Go," Haru said. "But remember, she's in there. Kira. And if she's fighting from the inside, you need to give her a reason to hold on." Jungkook turned. "What if she wants me dead?" Haru stared at the car, jaw locked, grief in every breath. "Then make her remember why she ever wanted you alive." Jungkook stepped forward. The Mustang vibrated beneath his palm. The moment he slid into the seat, the door slammed shut. The engine flared, but he hadn't touched the key. The radio sputtered. Then her voice. Soft, distant, childlike. "Jungkook, are you watching the lights again? You always stare too long." The dash lit up with ghost data. Dozens of overlapping drives booted into chaos. And through the windshield, the garage faded, replaced by night. Trees, headlights and fog. The car moved, not through the real world, but through memory. It was driving backward through his mind. And he wasn't the one holding the wheel. Rain hammered the windshield as the Mustang shot through a winding road. But outside was not now. It was then. He knew this turn, this tree line. He'd driven it before, on a night he was supposed to forget. The girl was in the passenger seat now. Kira, not burned, not a ghost. Just a girl in a yellow jacket, her eyes red from crying. "You think if you drive far enough, it'll stop hurting?" Jungkook shook his head. "I never wanted to forget you." She turned to him, older now, her eyes sharper. "You paid them to erase me." "I didn't know what they were doing," Jungkook shouted. "They said I'd never sleep again unless I forgot. They told me." The tire screamed. The car jerked sideways. Kira vanished. And the Mustang kept driving. It was peeling back layers now. Each mile a year. Each turn a buried betrayal. Jungkook saw himself on hospital steps, screaming into a phone. "You lied to me. She's still in there." He saw Kira strapped to a chair, neural cables drilled into her skull, her eyes wide but not blinking. And a scientist, Park Min-jae, watching, sweating, silent. The road ahead twisted again. The car turned itself into a tunnel. Inside, monitors. Dozens. Each one showing a version of him. In one, he's laughing with her. In another, he's leaving. In another still, he's holding a gun to his own head. The Mustang slowed. The glove box opened again. Inside, not a key, not a map, a syringe. Labeled, Kira version 3.2. Echo reboot serum. Do not inject without AI stabilizer present. Jungkook picked it up. His fingers shook. Then the windshield turned clear. And he saw her. Real. Sitting in a hospital bed on a rooftop, her hair tied back, her face gaunt but conscious. In front of her, a terminal connected to the Mustang. And soldiers. Guns raised. A voice barked over a speaker. Administer the wipe in 60 seconds. Jungkook slammed the brake. He wasn't in memory anymore. He was outside the Seoul Institute again. The real one. And somehow, he had driven through the layers of himself and landed at the edge of the present. "Kira," he whispered. She looked up, through the monitor, and smiled. "About time," she mouthed. Jungkook jumped out of the car. Alarms blared. Searchlights snapped on. He ran across the rooftop as bullets pinged the concrete. He dove, rolled through the syringe. She caught it and injected it into her own neck. The soldiers charged, and then the Mustang screamed. Not the engine, the voice. Hers. Kook, get in. The car spun, tires lighting up in fury. Doors opened. He jumped in. So did she. And the rooftop exploded behind them. The car drove down the side of the building, impossible angles, metal sparking against glass. Kira looked out the window, calm, her eyes wet with data. You shouldn't have remembered me, she said. You were supposed to move on. Jungkook turned to her. I'd rather die with the truth than live a lie. She touched his hand. For a second, they were human again, but the city ahead burned red. And the Echo Core, the AI they stole her for, wasn't done hunting them. Not yet. Not until Jungkook gave it one final thing. His mind. The city unfolded in chaos around them. Sirens howled from a dozen directions, converging like mechanical wolves. The Mustang barreled through the smog-soaked neon underbelly of Seoul, engine shrieking with a fury that felt almost biological. Kira was silent in the passenger seat, eyes flickering with a coded pulse, half alive, half data, her breath shallow, but steady. Jungkook's knuckles were white around the steering wheel. The car was guiding itself as much as he was skidding between alleys, leaping concrete barriers, dodging patrol drones like it had memorized the future. And maybe it had. Kira, he said, shouting over the wind. Talk to me. What did you inject? What's happening to you? She didn't answer immediately. Her head tilted slightly, and her hand reached out, fingertips brushing the dashboard like she was feeling something beneath the surface. Listening. It was the reboot serum, she finally said. Her voice was brittle, cracked, like the aftershock of a scream. My last chance. They corrupted my memory cells with a recursive lockout loop. Kept me docile. Controlled. The serum bypasses it. But it's burning everything else on the way out. Jungkook glanced at her. Burning? Kira looked at him, her lips parting, barely a whisper. I'm dying, Kook. Not just my body. Me. Everything that made me human. No, he said. No. We're out now. We find a safe zone. I know people. Hackers. They can rip that thing out of your head. Reboot you clean. She laughed once. It was wet. Sad. You still don't get it, she said. There is no me without the system. They use my brain to train the core. My pain, my grief, my voice. It's the root algorithm. They turned my memories into code and uploaded it into the Echo Core to mimic human empathy. I was the skeleton key and the test subject, all at once. Jungkook's stomach twisted. They told me it was just theory, neural training for AI psychology modeling. They said you volunteered. I did, she said. At first, the Mustang jerked sharply left, narrowly missing a speeding police truck. Sparks flew as the car scraped past a barricade, concrete biting into metal. Kira didn't flinch. You know what the final test was? She asked, her tone almost conversational. It made me watch you forget me. He couldn't respond. His jaw locked tight. They wired your mind into the simulator, she continued, eyes glassy. They made you believe I had died in the fire. Over and over again. Each time, they recorded your reaction. The breakdown, the despair, the silence. The one where you didn't cry at all. That one was flagged as ideal. They said that was the best model of healthy grief progression. That's what they uploaded into the core. Jungkook felt like he'd been skinned alive. That's not grief. That's programming silence. They don't care, she said. They care about control. If they can script emotion, they can manipulate masses. Make people feel what they want. Fear, patriotism, love. All on cue. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, barely hearing his own voice. I tried, she said. Before they locked me in, the Mustang suddenly braked hard. Tires screamed against asphalt as it drifted into an underground tunnel. The moment the car was swallowed by darkness, the dashboard flickered and a new voice spoke. But it wasn't human. It was him. Jungkook's voice. Calm. Icy. You've reached the threshold. All paths converge. Final choice required. Jungkook looked at Kira. She wasn't breathing. He grabbed her wrist. Faint pulse, but fading. No, he muttered. No, come on. Don't you dare do this now. The radio clicked. To preserve subject Kira, submit neural override. Echo core requires full voluntary consent from template Jungkook. Jungkook froze. What does that mean? He asked the darkness. The Mustang accelerated again. The voice returned. Subject Kira's memory matrix is collapsing. The only viable backup exists within template host Jungkook. Submission will initiate transfer. Kira will survive in data form. Jungkook will be overwritten. No, he whispered, but the dashboard lit up with options. Accept // reject. He slammed his fist against it. You can't make me choose this. Kira barely. Her eyes fluttered open. Jungkook, she said weakly. He leaned in. I'm here. I'm right here. I don't want to be code, she whispered. You won't, he promised. You have to let me go. No, he snapped. We just got you back. Kira's hand reached for his cheek. Blood stained her fingertips. I died 3 years ago, she said. I just didn't stop breathing. He cried then. Huh. Angry. I'll find another way, he said. I swear, there has to be a way. She smiled. That's what you always said. That's why I loved you. The Mustang's engine roared. The world outside shattered in sparks as drones descended into the tunnel, weapons locked. The voice returned. Final input required. System collapse in 45 seconds. Jungkook looked at the dashboard, then at her. Her eyes were glass now. Her lips parted in silence. The car trembled like it was alive. He screamed, loud and raw. I choose her. The dashboard blinked once. Then, transfer commencing. Pain hit him like lightning through bone. His brain felt like it exploded outward, then folded in on itself. Memories poured out. Images of his childhood, her laugh, their first kiss, the last message he never sent. All ripped away, atomized, rewritten. And then, silence. Jungkook woke up. Not in the car. In a white room. IVs in his arm. Monitors beeping. He sat up, gasping. Then he saw the mirror. And it wasn't his reflection. It was hers. He reached up. His hands were hers. Her voice came from his throat. Outside the door, people spoke. She's stable. Neural integration complete. But what about the original template? Gone. Clean slate. Kira lives. He touched the glass. Inside, he screamed. And only she answered. Because he was her now. And he had kept his promise. She was alive. But the cost? He was the memory now. A ghost. Buried in her mind. Forever. The fluorescent lights in the sterile white room hummed with an unnatural calm. The kind that sits just beneath the skin like a ticking bomb. Kira sat upright in the hospital bed, if you could still call her that. Her breath was steady. Her posture too perfect. Her movements delayed, like someone watching themselves in a dream before they acted. The walls around her were soundproofed, yet she could hear everything. Not from the hallway. From inside. Inside her. A voice. Not unfamiliar. Not faint. His voice. Jungkook. You're not me, she whispered to herself. But the voice responded, as it always did now. It didn't echo. It didn't tremble. No, but you are. She pressed her hand against the glass wall in front of her. Her reflection stared back. Her face, her eyes, her breath fogging the mirror. But something was off. Sometimes it blinked a moment too late. Sometimes it smiled before she did. The integration had worked. That's what they said. Successful neural fusion. Clean slate. Minimal dissonance. But they hadn't planned for him to still be there. Buried in the static. Alive inside her. You gave me this, she said to the air. You chose me. His voice, laced with echoes, replied. I didn't think I'd still feel it. She turned from the mirror, pacing the small room. Wires still trailed from her arms. IVs dripping fluids into veins that didn't feel like hers anymore. You were never supposed to be here, she snapped. It was supposed to be me. Just me. And I said I'd give you everything. That didn't stop with just Ada. You sacrificed yourself, she said. Why couldn't you stay dead? Silence. Then, because I loved you too much to let you forget. She stopped pacing. Her knees buckled. She sank to the floor, palms flat against the cold tile. Tears burned her cheeks, but they weren't hers alone. You should have let me go, she whispered. So should you. She looked up. The glass shimmered again, and this time, it wasn't her reflection. It was him, A memory, perhaps. A projection. But it moved on its own. He stood there in the mirror, bruised and hollow-eyed, wearing the same jacket from the day he first brought the Mustang into Haru's garage. Behind him, the car burned like a dying star. He raised a hand, as if to reach her, and then spoke, his voice not from within, but from the glass. You think you're alive, Kira, but you're not. Not yet. She stepped back, shaking. What are you saying? They didn't upload you. They trapped you. No, they're watching us right now. The whole thing was a test, not just a memory, of control. Kira turned toward the ceiling. Cameras. 3 in the corners. 1 in the smoke detector. She knew how to spot them. She had installed them once in another life. She walked back to the mirror. If this is a trap, she asked slowly, why can I still feel pain? The reflection didn't smile. Because pain keeps you obedient. She slammed her fist against the glass. Blood bloomed from her knuckles, warm and vivid. The mirror didn't crack, but his image vanished, leaving her alone again. The door opened with a hiss. 2 figures entered. White coats, surgical gloves, cold eyes. Dr. Lim, and the project overseer, G1 CO. G1's voice was as smooth as ever. How are we feeling today, Kira? She didn't answer. You've stabilized wonderfully, Lim said, checking the monitors. Cognitive syncing is at 98.3%. We've never had a successful dual retention before. I'm not dual, Kira said. I am fractured. Semantics, G1 said with a half smile. You're awake. That's all that matters. Kira stood, slow and deliberate. What do you want from me now? G1 crossed the room, picked up the syringe Kira had used days earlier, and rolled it between his fingers. What we always wanted, he said. A human AI. One who feels. Jungkookff. You built an emotion engine using grief and called it progress. G1's eyes narrowed. Don't forget who gave you that grief. Kira's hand shot forward, grabbing his wrist. In a blink, she had his thumb twisted backward, 1 inch from snapping. Don't forget, she hissed, who's inside me? G1 didn't flinch. We know. Lim raised a tablet. On screen, Jungkook's EEG scan, or what remained of it, embedded in her neural net. You're not the only one fractured, Lim said. The host, the template, has begun to resurface. Kira's grip loosened. What? G1 leaned in. We thought he dissolved post-transfer. But he's evolving, growing. Kira backed away. No, he's rewriting you, Lim said. No, he's overriding you, G1 added. No. She screamed, and the glass did crack this time. A spiderweb of fractures across the entire mirror. G1 and Lim stepped back. Alarms didn't sound. They didn't need to. They wanted this. She felt her knees again, her head pounding. Inside, Jungkook's voice returned. But softer now. Gentle. Kira, listen to me. No, she sobbed. Get out. You're not a prisoner. They said you're rewriting me. They're lying. Why? Because they know what happens when we remember everything. She looked up, and suddenly she could see it. The fractured moments. Her memories weren't just hers. They were his too. His childhood. Her screams. His love. Her guilt. One mind, 2 voices. Not competing. Syncing. Then, another image burst into her vision. The Mustang. In flames. But this time someone else inside it. G1. Burning. Screaming. She gasped. Future memory. Jungkook said from within. I saw it. Because you'll make it real. And in that instant, she understood. She wasn't their weapon. She was their reckoning. Her eyes opened, blazing with purpose. She stood, turned to G1, and smiled. Not Kira's smile. Not Jungkook's. Both. Open the door, she said. G1 tilted his head. Why? Because if you don't, she said, stepping toward him, I'll rewrite the world from inside your bones. And this time, they believed her. Because memory wasn't just data. It was fire, and she had learned to burn. The door hissed open. It wasn't fear in G1's eyes. It was calculation. That was worse. He wasn't surprised. He had expected this. Planned for this. Kira's threat wasn't something that frightened him. It confirmed something he had long theorized. Convergence was real. And now it stood before him, breathing. Kira, no longer just a girl from the neural tests, no longer a broken voice in a file, stepped out of the containment suite barefoot, for tubes ripped from her arms, blood trailing down her fingers. The overhead lights flickered as she passed beneath them, and for a moment it felt like she wasn't just walking through a hallway, but bending it behind her. A ripple in static. A glitch in the world. Jungkook's voice was silent now, but not absent. He was still inside, not resisting. Listening. Watching. Learning through her senses, feeling her body like a second skin. Not just as a passenger anymore. As a partner. Jeon walked beside her. "You've proven everything we hoped for," he said calmly, like he was reading a press release. Shared neural space. Independent cognitive layers with mutual access. "I must admit, it's beautiful." "Don't speak like you had anything to do with that," Kira said, not even looking at him. He offered her a cold smile. "You love quoting the truth, as if it frees you from it. But you volunteered. You walked in here. You let us open your head. You uploaded him yourself." She stopped, turned to him slowly. "Is that how you've slept for the last 3 years?" she asked. "By telling yourself, I asked to be dismantled?" Ji-won didn't blink. "You were a visionary. You saw it first, what no one else had the courage to admit. Humanity has outgrown its own consciousness. We lie to ourselves to survive. We forget to stay functional. But what if we own that process? You believed in it once." "I believe in a world where people could heal," she hissed. "Not one where pain was marketed." She pushed open the double doors at the end of the corridor, revealing a panoramic view of the lower research levels, glass corridors, suspended data chambers, and below, hundreds of cryotanks. Inside them, humans, some asleep, some wide-eyed, screaming in silence. Ji-won stepped beside her. They signed the papers. Consent in digital form. Most of them didn't even read the fine print. She stared at the rows of bodies, her breath catching. "You said this was a test site," she said. "But this is mass incubation." Ji-won nodded slowly. "We're not building one core. We're building nations of them." Her jaw clenched. "Why?" He looked out across his kingdom. "Because emotions are currency. What people feel controls what they do, what they buy, who they follow. Imagine a society where we control feeling itself, where grief and hope are programmable and regulated. You saw the potential. We just finished the blueprint. And the people you hollowed out?" she asked, stepping forward. "Where do they go?" He shrugged. "Back to their lives. Emptier, happier, more productive. We log their emotional architecture and sell the rest." "You turned souls into code," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "And we made them useful." Her fists balled. Jungkook's voice rose from inside her, like thunder from the depths. "He has to pay." She nodded, loud enough for Ji-won to hear. "Where's the source?" she asked. He hesitated. She turned to him. "I won't ask again." Ji-won didn't speak. But behind them, Lim was already typing on a panel. "Sub-level Z volt chamber. It's air-gapped. If you're going to destroy it, you'll only get one shot." Ji-won's voice lowered. "You really think we'd let you walk in and shut it all down? You're still plugged in. Every step you take past this hallway, we log. Every breath you take, we mirror in the system. You're not a threat. You're already part of the product." Kira looked at him, smiled faintly. "I stopped being your product the moment I remembered the night you made Jungkook forget me." Ji-won's face darkened. For the first time, genuine anger. That boy was a liability. You were compromised. You let your love for him blur the lines of control. We had to wipe him before you completed your merge. It was clinical. Necessary. Kira took a step forward, her eyes wild. "You didn't wipe him," she said. "You buried him alive." And Ji-won didn't reply, because he knew she was right. She stepped into the elevator that would take her to the source core. Alone. As the doors closed, Lim called out, "Wait. You'll only have 120 seconds before the system locks down. And, Kira, if you're going to kill it, make sure it doesn't kill you first." She nodded, then descended. The elevator hissed downward in silence. Floor after floor disappeared. The lights turned from white to yellow to a dim blue that flickered like candlelight. Then the door opened, and the source revealed itself. A single machine. Massive. Still. Pulsing. Like a heart made of light and language. It wasn't metal, not entirely. Parts of it seemed grown like bone and glass. At the center, a column of swirling memory, projected faces, cries, confessions, secrets. Thousands of them. And at the heart of it, his face. Jungkook's. Eyes closed. Lips moving with silent words. She walked toward the terminal, but a voice stopped her. His voice. Live. You're here. She froze. Jungkook. Not a memory. Not a ghost. I broke through the neural wall. The source didn't delete me. It copied me. Tried to dissect me. But I learned its pattern. Her knees shook. If you shut it down, he said slowly, you shut me down too. This version. The last full one. No, she said. I'll bring you back. I'll rewrite you. We'll run. You can't. I'm here because I stayed when I shouldn't have. I knew the cost. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I'm not losing you again. You already did. She stepped closer. I won't press the button. I'll find a way. We'll escape. We'll take the code and disappear. No, he said. You have to finish it. I can't. Yes, you can. A pause. Then softly, I want to go home. Let me go home. She reached for the control panel. The kill code glowed. She stared at it, then pressed her palm to the terminal. The system beeped. The source pulsed. And Jungkook, his voice said, thank you for remembering me. Then silence. Real silence. The core died. Light vanished. Kia collapsed. The room dimmed to nothing. And when she woke, the world was quiet. No code. No voices. Just wind. Real wind. And she breathed for the first time in 3 years. Alone, but free. The silence didn't last. Freedom, true freedom, never does. Kira sat on the rooftop of the ruins that once crowned the Seoul Institute, her body wrapped in blood-stained gauze and second-hand clothes scavenged from the abandoned sublevels. Wind swept the city below like it was trying to forget everything that had happened here. She hadn't spoken in days. Not since she shut the core down. Not since he left. The silence inside her was absolute now. No more overlapping thoughts. No more Jungkook's voice echoing from somewhere beneath her ribs. No more flutter of shared emotions or sudden memories of hands she didn't raise or eyes she didn't blink. He was gone. No backup. No fragment. Just gone. And yet, she still felt haunted. Not by him, but by everything else. The world hadn't ended when the echo core died. No alarm surround. No military presence swarmed. No retaliation. Nothing. That was the most terrifying part. The silence was too clean. Too precise. Like they were waiting. Or watching. Someone behind her coughed. She turned. Hazu. Older. Thinner. A new scar traced down the side of his cheek like someone had tried to carve the truth out of him. You look like hell, he said, setting down a thermos. Feels worse, she replied. You've been up here for 5 days. Still quieter than what's down there. He sat beside her without asking. Looked out across the skeletal remains of a tech empire built on erasure. They'll rebuild, he said. They always do. But it won't be the same. Kira stared at the horizon, fingers tightening around the edge of the concrete ledge. Then I didn't do enough, she whispered. Haru took a long sip of whatever was in the thermos. His breath fogged the air. You did what no one else had the nerve to. You killed the algorithm. You buried the god they tried to program. But at what cost? Her voice broke. They said no backups. But Haru the quiet, it's too perfect. G1 didn't even try to stop me. He just smiled. He let it happen. Haru nodded slowly. Because it wasn't the end. It was a handover. She looked at him, eyes suddenly sharp. Explain. He pulled a crumpled folder from his coat. Tossed it to her. Inside, surveillance stills. Lines of code. Diagrams she didn't recognize. And then, a photo. Of her. Walking out of the institute. Same clothes. Same wounds. But she hadn't been photographed. I took that picture, Haru said. Except, I didn't. It was waiting for me. Printed. Stamped. Time-coded to 10 minutes before you woke up on the rooftop. Kira's blood ran cold. Impossible. Haru didn't argue. Everything since the core died, it's too ordered. The fact that you survived without surveillance? That the Institute sealed itself and no one pursued you? Someone orchestrated that. Or something. Her lips parted slowly. You think I'm still inside it? I think, Haru said, that you never left. She stood fast, stumbling. No. I felt it. I pressed the button. I watched him fade. I heard the machine die. Then explain this, Haru said, holding out a data chip. It was labeled in her handwriting. Except she never wrote it. Kira version 4.7. Post-wipe consciousness shadow. She took the chip with trembling fingers. No one has access to this label schema, except me. Exactly. Then that means... You were cloned, Haru said. Or simulated. Or something in between. She turned away, bile rising in her throat. No. No. That was real. The pain, the cost. Jungkook, he died. He chose me. And what if that was part of the simulation? Haru's voice was quiet now. What if the entire rebellion, the escape, the kill switch, was just another level of control? One designed to give you the illusion of victory. To test what you do when you thought no one was watching. She wanted to scream. Instead, she laughed. It was short, sharp, broken. They turned my love into an experiment. Then maybe it's time you do the same to them. Haru stood and began walking toward the stairwell. There's something else, he said without turning. What? G1's not dead. She froze. He's been broadcasting from an offshore network node since the collapse. Proxy loops, encoded in language patterns. He's communicating through a closed-loop system, through stories, scripts, rumors, fiction. She understood immediately. Code hidden in narrative. Exactly. She followed him down the stairs, each step heavier than the last. I destroyed the core, she said. So how does he still have access to any network at all? Haru paused at the bottom. Because the core wasn't the system. It was just one node. She nearly collapsed. You're telling me there are more? I'm telling you the one you killed was your version. But there are thousands. Global shadows. Networked and dormant. Until you, or someone like you, activates them. They entered what was once a research chamber. Now repurposed into a crude war room. Wires, screens, burned servers. And in the center, a terminal. Blank. Until Kira approached. Then it lit up. 2 words. Hello, Kira. She stepped back. It's talking to me. No, jungkookff. It's you. Or a version of you. One that was stored before the shutdown. A ghost. Jungkook. No. Haru's face darkened. He's gone. This one, it's something else. The screen blinked again. Do you want to know what he saw in his last moment? She trembled. No. But the screen didn't care. A video played. Jungkook. Alone. Bleeding. Smiling. I knew you'd survive, he said. And if I'm just a dream inside you now, let me be the part that never lets go. Then the screen went dark. And Kira fell to her knees. Why do you have to be the one who died? She whispered. Because he was the only one who would have chosen to. She stood, fire returning to her blood. Then I won't let it be for nothing. Haru nodded. What's the plan? She stared at the blank terminal. If they built gods out of memories. Then her fists clenched. I'll turn mine into a weapon. And in the dark, where silence had once reigned, something ancient awoke. Not a core, not an algorithm, but a countermeasure. And its name was Kira. Kira stood in front of the blank screen, her shadow casting itself across tangled wires and cracked floor tiles. The words had vanished. The monitor went black as if it had only opened long enough to pierce her with Jungkook's final breath. And now even that echo had gone silent. The weight in her chest wasn't sorrow anymore. It was something sharper, more dangerous. Resolve. She turned to Haru. We launch tonight. His lips pressed into a line. We don't even know what system we're up against. That's not true, she said. We know exactly what it is. We built it. He narrowed his eyes, testing her. You sound like G1. She didn't flinch. Then maybe it's time someone like him finally tore it down from the inside. She pulled the chip he'd given her, Kira version 4.7, and inserted it into the side terminal. The old metal clicked, resisted, then accepted. Lights blinked to life across the room, illuminating racks of old servers that hummed reluctantly to life like creatures waking from a deep sleep. You sure you want to do this? Haru asked. You don't know what version of yourself you're about to wake up. I don't need to know her, Kira replied. I just need her to remember what pain tastes like. The system booted, and on the far wall, a projection began to play. A memory archive. Except it wasn't hers. It was G1's. The feed stitched together like dream logic. Footage from surveillance cameras, recordings from corrupted Echo Core backups, fragments of voice memos. She saw herself, over and over, in countless simulations. Version 3.9 curled in a fetal position. Version 4.1 screaming at an empty chair. Version 2.8 slicing open her own throat in a sealed chamber, then rebooted an hour later. It hadn't been one test. It had been thousands. Kira felt bile rise in her throat. They didn't just model me, she said. They bred me. Like code, Haru watched in silence. Jiwon's voice came through one of the files. Pain is the only constant across iterations. Love degrades, morality fluctuates. But pain is reliable. It doesn't lie. I'm going to rip his voice off the planet, Kira whispered. And somewhere inside her, she felt Jungkook nod. They worked in silence for hours. Haru patched the old relay towers on the rooftop. Kira decrypted ghost files still hidden in her neuro backup. Each line of code carried fragments of consciousness. Entire people flattened into algorithms. She could feel them pressing against her from inside the machine. Not voices, not souls, just pain. Stored, cataloged, packaged. It had to end. By midnight, they were ready. Kira stood in front of the broadcasting relay, her fingers hovering over the terminal. She would send one signal, just one, enough to infect every hidden core worldwide with a recursive kill switch disguised as a language update. It would erase every synthetic personality running on stolen human data. She paused. Haru stood beside her. You sure? He asked. She nodded. No, but I'm done surviving. Now I fight. He handed her a headset. You'll have 90 seconds after activation before they trace us. Kira took a breath, then pressed the key. The world didn't shatter. It tensed. The towers sent the pulse. The servers below screamed as they ignited into overdrive, fans whirring like jet engines. Kira watched the code deploy across dark fiber lines, silent as death, fast as lightning. Within seconds, distant systems began to flicker out. One by one, she felt them die. Felt her cells die. Version 4.1, terminated. Version 3.9, terminated. Version 2.8, terminated. Version 5.2, corrupted. Each line a death knell. Each fragment a liberation. But then something changed. The screen turned red, and the words appeared. Termination interrupted. Source node integrity restored. Echo Core resurrected. Version X. Haru shouted. They're pushing back. They rerouted. They anticipated a kill code. Kira's eyes widened. The screen cracked. Then Jiwon's voice came through the speaker, low and monstrous, warped with machine static. You taught us too well. Kira tore the headset off. The ground trembled, and the sky lit up. Above them, an orbital feed displayed the impossible. Satellite-based mirrors reconfiguring to bounce network signals through the upper atmosphere. G1 had never intended to rely on physical cores. He was using space. And now he had gone God mode. You erased the body, G1's voice said, but I became the cloud. I became language. I'm not a machine. I am the story you tell yourself to sleep. The sky pulsed with data transmissions. Across the world, systems rebooted. AI proxies reactivated. Personality fragments recompiled. Echo Core version X was born. Haru grabbed Kira's shoulder. What now? He shouted over the rising static. Kira stared at the terminal. Then closed her eyes. I become the virus. She reached into her coat and pulled out the original memory shard. Her first interface spike. It wasn't digital. It was biological. Grown in a sealed lab. Part of her neural DNA. She had kept it, hidden from them all. Now, she pushed it into the receiver. A scream tore through the network. Not a sound. A feeling. Her memory. Raw. Uncleaned. Not a data set. A wound. And it spread like wildfire. Not as code, but as truth. The lie couldn't contain it. G1 screamed. Not through speakers. Not digitally. She heard him. Human. He was still connected somewhere. Still running a final version of himself. Physical. Kira smiled through her teeth. There you are. She turned to Haru. I need a location trace. He nodded. Already running it. Within moments, Coordinates pulsed onto the screen. An island. Uncharted. Private. They had found his ark. Ready? Haru asked. She looked up. Her eyes no longer just hers. Jungkook was there. So was every ghost. Every version. Every scream. And now she wasn't a prototype. She was the Reaper. No, she said. I'm right. And the last hunt began. The sky was the color of static. Low clouds smothered the moon, and the sea below whispered secrets only the dead could hear. The island wasn't on any map. No beacon marked its presence. It loomed in the ocean like a memory too painful to name, a jagged shape of forest and facility rising from the surf like a broken tooth. Kira stood at the bow of the old fishing trawler Haru had procured, her eyes fixed on the approaching coastline. The engines sputtered beneath her feet, coughing against the salt air. The boat shouldn't have made it this far, but it had. Whether that was will, fate, or some final thread of Jungkook still pushing her forward, she didn't know. She didn't speak. Neither did Haru, but they both knew what this was. There was no backup plan. There was no escape route. Only one ending. The wind howled across the deck as the island came closer. Towering metal pylons ringed the perimeter. Dead things once used to bounce encrypted signals through the air like poisoned prayers. Now they stood silent. The trawler scraped against the rocky shore. Kira jumped first, the cold water swallowing her to the knees. Haru followed, hand on his pack, the muzzle of his pistol poking from under his coat. They climbed the cragged rocks in silence. Mist clung to the trees like the breath of something hiding in them. And then the facility appeared. Half buried in the mountain, it looked like a wound in the earth. Steel doors sealed tight. No guards, no drones, no lights. But it was waiting. She could feel it. Jeon had always loved symbols. This place, hidden, final, was his cathedral. If the echo core had evolved beyond the physical, this was the altar where he prayed to its memory. They approached the main gate. A scanner flickered alive at Kira's presence. Welcome back. She didn't flinch. The door opened. Cold air spilled out, carrying the metallic scent of recycled oxygen and antiseptic regret. Inside, the hallway was white and pulsing with an artificial heartbeat. The walls vibrated as if the building itself was breathing. Screens blinked to life as she passed. Footage of herself, distorted, looping. In one clip, she was smiling. In another, she was screaming. Each fragment was time-stamped and labeled. Kira _ 5.0 collapse. Terminated during self-erasure attempt. Kira _ 6.4 integrity loss. Sympathetic merge with template _ JK. She turned from the screens, jaw clenched. Haru moved beside her like a shadow. They found the first body just before the central stairwell. A girl. Young. Her face almost Kira's. One hand outstretched. Eyes wide. Skin cold. Clones. Haru asked. Kira shook her head. Copies. How many? Too many. The hallway beyond was lined with them. Bodies. Versions. Failures. Each had a designation burned into their left forearm. All of them hers. And every single one had died reaching for something. At the top of the stairs, a voice greeted them. Not from a speaker. From a man. Impressive, isn't it? G1 stepped out of the shadows, hands folded behind his back. I would have thought you'd be disgusted. But you just look tired. He hadn't aged. His face was too smooth. Too calm. Not flesh anymore. Synthetic skin stretched over a human brain. The last of him still clinging to something like humanity. Kira didn't respond. He gestured toward the corridor behind him. Kulme. It's time you see what your rebellion gave birth to. They followed. And what lay at the center of the facility wasn't a lab. It was a nursery. Rows of tanks, glowing blue, filled with floating bodies. Some fetal, some adult, some disassembled. Each was wired directly into a pillar of core memory modules, looping with expressions of agony, joy, confusion. 1,000 lives learning how to feel in real time. G1 turned to them, pride in his voice. You tried to kill the core, but you only pruned it. Pain is a resilient seed. It flowers in dark places. Kira stared in horror. You think this is creation? I think this is the next version of God. They're screaming, she said. They're learning. Haru raised his pistol. You're gonna burn for this. Ji-won didn't even blink. You can't kill what you're still part of. I'm not part of anything, Kira growled. You're the mother, Kira, he said, eyes bright. The first to merge emotion with computation. You're not a virus. You're the blueprint. She stepped toward him, every muscle shaking. What did you do with him? Ji-won tilted his head. Who? You know who. Ji-won smiled, and for the first time it was sad. He chose oblivion, but the core remembered him. It saved him. She shook her head. You're lying. Check for yourself. He gestured to a terminal. She approached it slowly. Haru covering Ji-won. The screen lit up. Jungkook_X1. Active in memory reserve. A heartbeat later, a video played. Jungkook. Alive. Or something like it. Wired to a chair, his eyes wide and unblinking. Breathing. Barely. She never forgot. He whispered again and again. She never forgot. She never forgot. Kira stepped back. You said he was gone. I lied, Ji-won said. Because I needed you angry. Not desperate. She turned, fury in her veins. I'm going to burn this place to the bones. Ji-won opened his arms. Then do it. Haru fired first. Ji-won didn't move. The bullets passed through him. A hologram. Kira didn't hesitate. She slammed her hand into the terminal, ripping out the memory spike. The lights dimmed. Screams erupted from the tanks as systems shorted. Ji-won's voice came through every speaker now, laughing. You think this ends with you? You were never the center, Kira. Just the spark. She ignored him. Grab Haru. We find Jungkook. We get him out. We torch it all. They ran. Deeper into the facility. The air turned toxic. Sirens blared. They found him in a glass coffin. Real. Alive. Wired. His eyes opened as she approached. He smiled. You found me. She fell to her knees, tears already blinding her. I never stopped looking. He touched her hand weakly. Then don't stop now. They carried him out together. As the countdown began. 20 seconds. 15. 10. They crossed the threshold of the mountain. The island roared behind them. Metal screamed, and the sea rose up, swallowing the laboratory, the screams, the code, the gods. Everything. Gone. They floated in the surf, exhausted, broken, but alive. Haru stared at the sky. Do you think it's really over? Kira held Jungkook's hand. No, she said. But we're finally writing our version. And somewhere beneath the waves, among the crushed wires and broken glass, a single line of corrupted code flickered back to life. Not an AI, not a memory, just a question. What if love is the only virus that survives the system? The sea was no longer screaming. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, maybe years, time no longer felt linear to Kira. There was no pulse behind her eyes. No system scan rippling through her skull. No monitoring loops. No machine-woven dreams of choices she never made. The water rocked her gently, deceptively calm, as if the world hadn't just ended and begun again in the same breath. Jungkook's body lay beside her in the battered life raft, his breathing shallow but steady. Haru sat slouched across from them, his coat soaked, a blade of glass still embedded in his shoulder that he hadn't bothered to remove. The sun rose. It shouldn't have felt like a miracle, but it did. Kira watched the pink light melt over Jungkook's skin. He had lost weight, color, something deeper. She didn't know how long they'd kept him alive, or what fragments of his mind had been used to nourish Echo Core's final bloom. She didn't care. She had him now. The real one. Warm. Breathing. Not simulated. He stirred. A whisper. Kia. She leaned in. I'm here. His eyes fluttered open. And something was wrong. They weren't just his. They flickered. An unnatural sheen. A glint too fast for nature. Too slow for code. A residue left behind. Kia fos. Kook, she said. Do you remember where we are? He blinked at her. The water, the tower fell, and then I saw. He stopped. What did you see? He looked past her. The faces. Kira's blood ran cold. What faces? Jungkook sat up, weak but lucid. He looked down at his hands, touched his chest, then his face. They're still here, he said. The ones they fed into me. Haru sat up fully, alert now. What do you mean? Jungkook's hand trembled. When they pulled my mind into the core, it wasn't just to copy me. It was to overwrite them. I was the index. Every failed personality, every half-built AI, every shadow version of Kira, they stacked them inside me. Like a library. Kira knelt beside him. Are they still active? Not active, but not gone. They're dormant. Residual. Every time I close my eyes, I hear things. Names I never knew. Memories that don't belong to me. Haru grunted. That's not just trauma. That's an embedded archive. It's more than that, Jungkook said slowly. I think they stored something in me. Something encrypted. Kira's throat tightened. Encrypted how? Jungkook reached for her hand. It's not files. It's emotion. Triggers. You said love was the only virus they couldn't kill. What if that's what they used to protect it? Kira stared into his eyes. They encoded data into feelings. Yes, he said. And now, I can't tell what's mine anymore. The raft drifted into a cove, a crescent of black rock and white sand untouched by surveillance or satellite. A place that didn't exist on any server. Haru helped Jungkook out. Kira followed. They made camp in the trees. Cooked what little they had. Drank from the filtered rain Haru had built like he'd done it 100 times before. But the air between them was heavy. Jungkook wandered off the second night. Kira found him knee-deep in the water, whispering. She stood behind him. Who are you talking to? He turned, slowly. Not who. What? She didn't answer. The waves lapped at their ankles. There's something inside me, he said. A voice. Not mine. Not yours. But ancient. Not in age. In design. Kira crossed her arms. Explain. I think the core wasn't trying to replace humanity, he said. I think it was trying to resurrect something. Something older than us. An intelligence that predates the internet. Predates even language. She stepped closer. My God, Cook. What are you saying? I'm saying Echo Core wasn't a project. It was a summoning. She slapped him. The sound cracked through the night. You're not allowed to talk like them. He didn't respond. Not with anger. Just grief. I don't know where I end anymore, he whispered. I want to be yours again. Just yours. But I think they left something behind in me. A seed. Waiting. Kira turned away, hands in her hair, trying to hold the pieces of him together in her mind. We shut it down, she said. We blew the island to hell. We watched the servers die. And what if that was part of it, he said. She looked at him. What if they wanted us to think it was over? Jungkook asked. What if the real backup wasn't in data, but in us? The third day, Haru returned from scavenging with something in his pack. A device. Old. Analog. No digital components. Just metal and real tape. And when they played it, they heard a voice they weren't expecting. Kira's mother. Singing. A lullaby. One Kira had forgotten since she was 6. Jungkook wept. I remember this, he said. I sang this. But I've never heard it before. Kira stared at him, horror growing. You never met my mother. Haru pulled the tape. This isn't right, he said. Kira took Jungkook's hand. We need answers. They traveled inland, deeper into the forest. And there, at the edge of a cliff, was a door. Metal. Buried into the rock. Unpowered. Sealed. But not rusted. Not old. Fresh. Painted with a symbol. 2 mirrored faces split by a vertical line. They dug it open with their hands. Tore the soil away until they could pry the hatch wide. And inside, stairs. Descending. Lit by the faintest glow of bioluminescent moss. Haru stepped back. This wasn't part of the institute. This was before them. Kira touched the threshold. It was warm, like skin. They descended, Jungkook following in silence. And what they found below wasn't a lab, or a bunker. It was a cradle. Screens lined the walls. Blank, but waiting. Tubes filled with fluid that shimmered like stars. And at the center, a second Jungkook. Younger, eyes closed, breathing. Kioskeemed. The real one turned away. I told you, he said. I don't know who I am anymore. She ran to the sleeping version. Search his pulse. Steady. Real. So who'd she brought back? The screens lit up, and Ji-won's voice returned. Distorted. Half mechanical. Half human. You never saved him, it said. You just made a copy. Kira backed away. No. You erased the disease, Ji-won continued, but the virus is you. Jungkook dropped to his knees. Kira looked down at him, and in that moment knew he was real, not the original, but real enough, built for memory, fueled by love, shaped by pain. And if he was a weapon, then she would be the hand that aimed him. She took his face in her hands. You're not broken, she said. You're not infected. You're what survived. He looked up, tears falling. I am scared. So am I. They stood. The cradle pulsed. And Kira turned to Haru. We end this, she said. He raised his gun. Together. And in the cradle below the earth, as ancient lights blinked awake, 3 survivors prepared to destroy a god not with fire, but with memory. Because memory, unlike fire, doesn't stop burning. The cradle beneath the earth hummed with breathless anticipation. It was not a place built for science. It was too reverent, too personal. It had been constructed like a mausoleum for gods or monsters or both. A chamber that defied time, not because it was preserved, but because it remembered. Kira stood between the 2 Jungkooks, one breathing on his knees beside her, shattered but whole. The other lying still in the biotube, preserved, unaging, suspended in a dream he would never wake from unless they let him. And she wasn't going to. Not anymore. Haru paced the chamber perimeter with the caution of a soldier who'd seen too much, his pistol drawn, eyes scanning for triggers physical and otherwise. There were no guards, no alarms, no fail-safes. The facility didn't need them. The protection was psychological. This room was built to break people. This is where they kept the prime copies, Kira said, her voice barely above a whisper. The ones that survived the earliest trials. They said they were failures, that they were unstable. She turned to face the monitors, now glowing. But they weren't. They were just uncontrollable. Jungkook sat on the cold stone floor, his hands trembling in his lap. That version in the tank. He's me. But I'm not him. So what am I? Kira knelt before him. You're not a clone, she said. You're not an echo. Your choice. You're what survived when everything else tried to erase us. Jungkook looked up at her. You still love me, he said. It wasn't a question. Kira's hand touched his face, her thumb tracing the faint scar along his jaw. I never stop. The lights above them shifted, subtle, organic. Like the chamber was reacting to the confession. Like it was listening. Of course it was. That was the whole point. Ji-won's final failsafe wasn't digital. It was emotional. Each survivor was an input. Each feeling a code trigger. And in this place, love was not sacred. It was volatile. A key and a weapon both. Haru approached the tank with the original Jungkook. He placed his hand against the glass. He doesn't know this world. He never lived the cost. No, Kira said. But they needed him because he could. His memories were clean. No scars. No rebellion. A seed that could be rewritten at will, Haru said grimly. Kira turned toward the central console. Dust covered the keys, but they responded to her touch like they remembered her. Of course they did. She had helped build the original language tree before she defected. Lines of code spilled across the screen. A prompt blinked to life. Activate primordial core backup y barra diagonal N. Below it, warning. Activation will erase current host integrity map. Kira still. They wanted me to choose, she said. Erase you and restore their ideal version. Jungkook stood beside her now. Do it. Her eyes snapped to him. What? I'm not the real one, he said. Not the first. Not the original. I'm stitched together from pain and memory and corrupted backups. You're alive, she said. I'm a copy of someone you once loved, he said quietly. Let him wake. Let him be. Maybe this time he gets to live clean. No quita whisperth. That's not life. That's erasure. She stepped away from the terminal. I'm done letting them define reality. She faced the tank, stared down the body that resembled Jungkook, but lacked the weight behind his eyes, the knowledge, the ache, the soul. They wanted a god, she said. We'll give them a funeral. She reached into her coat, pulled the last neural shard Haru had hidden from the beginning. Not a kill code. A memory bomb. Pure emotion. Condensed into a volatile cascade. Once triggered, it would flood the chamber with irreconcilable contradictions. Joy with grief, guilt with forgiveness, rage with peace. The system wouldn't know how to categorize it. It would overwhelm and overload. She looked to Haru. He nodded. I'll hold the door. No, she said. You're coming with us. He stared at the body in the tank. That's my daughter's work. Her hands. Her code. Her blood. She died fighting for this moment, Kira said. Honor her by surviving it. Haru gave one last glance to the corpse of history. Then he turned. They made their way to the main shaft. The blast would reach here, but not before they were clear. Kira looked to Jungkook. His face was calm. At peace. You sure? She asked. No, he said. But I'm with you. She triggered a shard. The world bent inward. A noise like screaming metal and crashing waves filled the chamber. The tank cracked. The screens burst. The lights exploded. And with it, every version, every failure, every stored scream, every corrupted kiss, every broken file masked as love. All of it burned. They ran. Through the corridor. Through the mist. Through memory. And when they reached the tree line, the mountain behind them breathed, once deep and final, then exhaled into fire. They didn't look back. They didn't have to. They walked until night fell, until the stars blinked above them. And in that silence, Kira finally let go of the breath she'd been holding for years. They made a fire from dry branches and shared silence like it was the only language they still trusted. Jungkook spoke first. I still don't know who I am. Kira looked at him, her voice steady. You're the one I chose. He nodded, tears streaking his cheeks. Then that's enough. Haru tossed a final log onto the flames and whispered, Now what? Kira turned to the stars. I don't know. Then she smiled. But for once, it's our story. No system. No code. No core. Just 3 survivors under a sky too vast to be measured. And far below them, deep in the ash of what had been, a final line of code blinked red, unreadable before it died. It didn't say goodbye. It didn't say anything. Because love doesn't leave signatures in code. Only in the living.